All right, well, it's an exciting time of the year for college basketball, players, coaches, and fans. We're looking forward to getting the season started. We open up at home on November 4th, and then it's nonstop until April. And this is my, I think, 54th year in coaching, my 40-something year as a head coach, and still excited like I just got my first head coaching job. So, any questions?
Jim, I want to ask, Tony Bennett, stepped down and spoke quite a bit about why, and that is kind of a trend. Here you are, you just said those numbers of how long you've been in this. How have you had to adjust, how have you adjusted to the new everything? NIL transfer portal, having basically 10 new players on a team of 12 from a Final Four team 2 years ago. How do you do that, and why do you still enjoy it?
Well, first of all, I have tremendous respect for Tony Bennett. I think he's deserves the Hall of Fame. He's a tremendous individual person, was a great college player, great college coach, and just a great human being. One of the things is he explained very well his philosophy, and he's not willing to compromise his philosophy to accommodate the new conditions that we're faced with. I got into coaching because my high school coach was my role model. And one of the things I learned from him in my observation of his career is to just make adjustments and deal with whatever the issues are that you're dealing with. And so my own personal philosophy is I'm here to just educate young men and using the game of basketball to do it with. I'm an educator, I'm a teacher. I like working with the players during practice. I like, I'm sorry, I like getting to know them on the court and off the court, and like to prepare them for life when they're no longer bouncing the basketball.
Jim, how do you feel your team's come together? I mean, you've had several months of practice now, and kind of brought a bunch of guys from a lot of different places. How's it all meshing together?
Well, I think we're going to find out how well that it's meshed together once we start the competition. What's very, very challenging for players is to play against the same faces every single day. And what's very, very different is we started working out as a team in July. So we had all of July, and now we had basically a couple of weeks in August, all of September, now all of October, to really put the pieces together. But because we have so many new players, 10 new guys, we've made adjustments, and they're learning a whole new system. So you actually need the time because you're taking players from all different systems and trying to mesh them into one unit. So I'll be excited to see how we're doing. We're going to have a scrimmage and an exhibition game before we open up the season, and we'll see how we do in those.
Coach, a lot of people always talk about the difficulties of bringing in, a bunch of new faces. As a coach, what are some of the positives or, benefits of, kind of overloading the roster?
Well, I'd say the benefits is in this particular case, you can recruit upperclassmen, older guys. We have now, I think it's 7 seniors. So with 7 seniors, these guys are 22, 23 years old. They're men. They understand the game. They've been competing at the college level for sometimes 4 years, and as a result, you feel like when you put something in, they really understand what you're asking them to do and can do it well.
Jim, I want to piggyback off that. A lot of your successes, starting with even with George Mason and here, the teams that have been really good, were teams that were around or older guys who had transferred in. This seems like maybe that even though it's more of them, you seem to like working with older, experienced players. So do you think maybe in a way this is a team that is tailor-made for you?
Well, here's what I would say about that. I like working with players, whether they're young or old. I think what you have is when a team is more experienced, they have a better chance to succeed. Working with a young player, they need experience before they can really play up to their potential. and working with older players, they normally adapt quicker and can execute better under game conditions because they've done it for so many years. My first Miami team, we had a great freshman in Shane Larkin, but then he was surrounded by juniors and seniors. And then that next year, with most of them coming back, we had a championship caliber team. But I think the balance of having youthful enthusiasm, talented young guys to join a veteran crew is the best case scenario.
And ask about the veterans. I want to ask two in particular, Lynn Kidd and Brandon Johnson. I know you've mentioned in the talks we've had before leading in that the two of them are really going to be very, very important. Can you talk about those two guys in particular?
Well, we scrimmaged on Saturday, and I think Lynn Kidd went 11 for 12 or 11 for 13 from the field. Brandon Johnson had like 7 or 8 assists. I mean, these guys are older, smart, very smart, and know how to play well together. All indications they'll be our starting 4-man and starting 5-man. And we got to hope we're going to keep them healthy, because I think injuries play a major role into today's college game.
Jim, obviously, very talented freshman class. Now that you've had a chance to work with them, see them with your own eyes for a few months, what do you anticipate their roles being, especially guys like Austin and Jaleel, who are so highly touted?
Yeah, I think we have to wait and see. We're bringing them along. Actually, when we scrimmaged on Saturday, we put a 5-man freshman team together to go against the veterans. And for them, they're learning. They're learning how important defense is, how important it is that they rebound the ball. Like Jalil had 7 rebounds the other day. The better they defend and the better they rebound, the more of an impact they'll have during a game, because they can all score. Offense is not my concern for them. It's always about the defense.
Coach, to kind of piggyback on that question, you mentioned previously that this group of freshmen are a bit further ahead than some of the previous classes that you've had. Just what about these freshmen, in your opinion, make them potentially special?
Well, they're all special in their own way. Just ask their parents, But to me, there are different things you evaluate in a player. And probably the number one thing that is very, very obvious to the eye is their athletic ability, how fast they are, how high they jump. And then you evaluate their skills, how well they can shoot, how well they can handle the ball, how well they defend and rebound. Well, defense and rebounding is the biggest challenge for all freshmen. They got to learn, because in high school they didn't have to face the caliber of player that they're going to be matched up once the season begins. But these guys are very, very talented physically, so they're fast, they can jump. They've worked really hard in the weight room, so they're much stronger than when they came. And they all have very good skills for offense. They can all handle the ball, they can all shoot the ball. And as good as Jalil and Austin are, Isaiah Johnson-Arigu and Divine Ugochukwu are equally as talented and going to be fighting for playing time.
Jim, what is the biggest strides that Jalen's made since he first got here till now, and what is he giving you right now?
Jalen? So Jalen Blackman is a transfer from Stetson. He's an outstanding shooter, scorer. He and Nigel have developed really good chemistry in the backcourt, kind of like Nigel did with Isaiah when he first came. Nigel's in Isaiah's role now of helping the new guy make the adjustment, whereas he was the new guy coming in and Isaiah helped him come along. So I'm very, very happy with that combination and how well they played together.
How about Nigel in particular? He struggled with injuries last year. Can you assess how he looks going into this year?
He looks healthy, and he looks very good. I think he had 29 points in the scrimmage the other day. He's shooting the ball very, very well. He's handling the ball. I think he's defending very well. Our issue a little bit is Nigel and Jalen, neither one of them are very big. And oftentimes you go against even Jalil and Austin and Divine, those guys are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and size becomes a factor, size and athletic ability. So hopefully, as upperclassmen, as seniors, they can utilize their size and skill to overcome some of the lack of size that they have in comparison to their opponent.
And with
Jim, on
Nigel-
the defensive side, you're a little bit bigger up front now. The scramble defense, is that something you're still trying to utilize a lot? And also, I know you didn't like the defense results last year. Do you see this maybe, a better group defensively so far?
I would have said yes 2 weeks ago, but we had an injury to Kyrie Ewing. Kyrie Ewing is 6'9", 230 pounds, and the very natural five-man who could alternate with Lynn Kidd at that position. But he had an injury to his hand, he had to have surgery, and the timetable for him to come back right now is uncertain. So we're not going to be much bigger like we planned, but Lynn Kidd is bigger than what we've had, and he's obviously instrumental, but he's going to need rest. He's a guy who plays very, very hard. He can go for 4 or 5 minutes, then probably needs 2 or 3 minutes to rest. Those 2 or 3 minutes are going to be hugely important as to who we play in his time on the bench. So, and I'm not sure who that's going to be right now.
Can you give us a scouting report on the ACC, even though it's hard to do with so many new players on all the different teams? What would you say about the strength of the ACC and some of the teams that people should watch for?
Well, I think they're going to be really good, all the teams in the ACC, and partially because the guys who are returning are very good, but the influx of upperclassmen to each team, each program, has made them deeper and stronger and tougher. I think even Joe Lunardi has indicated that we're going to get an increased number of ACC teams this year. He's projected us to get 6 instead of 5.
And I mean, we're talking so much about the new players because
I'm projecting us to get 10 instead of 5.
Okay.
every team. But we're obviously talking a lot about the new players because they're new. But how important is it to have Nigel and Matt and Paul Jobet to kind of have that like kernel of continuity from year to year?
Well, that's why I think the transfers, especially the older guys, have done so well, because Nigel, Matt, and Paul have really helped them with the communication, with what we're trying to do, by engaging with them on and off the court. And I think the transition for those guys has gone very smoothly, and hopefully that will continue.
Last question?
Do you think you can get
Wait a
away
minute,
with
wait a
this?
minute. Oh, hang on one second. Did you have a question, Seth?
He did. He's a
All
high
right,
school
Seth.
guy.
Seth and I go way back. He's one of my basketball campers, so don't anybody interfere and interrupt him.
So, Coach, you were talking a little bit about your seniors. How are you going to help prepare them for the draft process coming up later in the year?
Yeah, it's interesting how every player in America thinks they're going to play in the NBA one day, and we know how difficult that is. But our players, our seniors in particular, are focused right now on the college season. They know that, and we brought in a scout from the Denver Nuggets to explain to them how the draft works. And you won't believe this, but the number one thing the NBA scouts look for and want is guys from winning teams. So somebody like the University of Connecticut who wins the national championship, they got more guys drafted than anybody else. And so our guys know that the best way to get to the NBA and be evaluated is win in the ACC and win in the NCAA tournament.
Last question.
Can you get away with a small backcourt in this year's ACC?
We're going to find that out. I would much prefer us to have some size in the backcourt, and our freshmen may be able to provide that. We also have a transfer, A.J. Stanton-McCray, who's 6'5", and he can play the 2-guard spot as well as the 3. So we can put a fairly good-sized team out there, but it won't likely start the game.